not only New Orleans Saints history, but NFL history. Just a brilliant player. 11-time Pro Bowler, 6-time first-team All-Pro, and part of the All-Decade team in the NFL in the 1990s and 2000s, part of the Saints Ring of Honor, the Saints Hall of Fame, and the Pro Football Hall of Fame, the one and only 77, Willie Roaf. Willie, listen, it's so good to talk to you once again. Great to have you with us. I hope you and Angela and the family are fine in these very strange times we find ourselves in.
Yeah, we're doing well, Ken. You just said camp, so I'm thinking to myself now, Ken, I look back on it, I'm 50 now, I'm like, man, I had to run around out there in this heat like this, but I wish we had a short prep time like that when I got older in the league, but back then training camps were a little different. So it's kind of good and the bad because you want the guys to get their legs underneath them and be ready to go. And I was watching the Pelicans last night. Ingram looked real good last night, but I don't know why he hadn't played in 5 months. I want my best players to finish the game. So.
Yeah, and that's the biggest topic of conversation with regard to the Pelicans is all about Zion Williamson and why he didn't play more. Well, the answer came right after the game. Alvin Gentry said that was the orders from the medical staff, and then David Griffin, the executive vice president, general manager of the team, backed that up today and said that was our decision. So people that wanted to blame the coach, really, in this particular case, you can't blame the coach for that decision. This was mandated, but it's still a little bit of a head scratcher. When you've got a game in your hands like that, a game you've got to get, and you let it slip away, and you're having trouble scoring the ball.
Yeah. So.
And that's what he does. 13 points in 15 minutes.
It was great to have basketball back on.
Oh yeah.
It's great to have football coming. And the question for you, Ken, did we have any positive tests for the guys that did the testing, or did they know yet?
No, no positive tests to this point.
Good.
No positive tests. Now they'll continue to do so, but no, fortunately none. Two backup tight ends who really were long shots to make the roster did opt out, decided they weren't going to partake, but everyone else is in where the Saints are concerned, and why not? This is a team that unquestionably is a contender to get to the Super Bowl, and they have been the last 3 years. And I guess, just to talk about the Saints first, it's got to be, and I know you've watched closely and you're a Saints fan just like you're a Chiefs fan, to watch what's happened with the Saints the last 3 years, the way all 3 seasons have ended it's kind of numbing, isn't it? I mean, in every case, they had a strange player, something weird, end their season when in fact they were good enough perhaps to win it all.
Yeah, it's been very numbing, especially the one that happened at home with the Rams shouldn't have happened. They should have made it to the big dance, that one. And the one in Minnesota was very disappointing a couple of years ago when they had a real legitimate shot to win that game. So, like you said, I would love to see Drew Brees and those guys get a chance before he's done to make another run at it.
Well, it's interesting because the Kansas City Chiefs, of course, are the reigning Super Bowl champions, so you're in a unique spot. You really do have a chance to have both of your teams in Tampa playing in the Super Bowl if this season goes off as scheduled, because Kansas City undoubtedly is one of the top 2 or 3 teams in the AFC again. New Orleans is undoubtedly one of the top 2 or 3 teams in the NFC.
Well, yeah, and I'm excited about it, and I will say this. I was very happy to see the Chiefs win. It's been 50 years, and having played up there for those 4 seasons, that fan base and that atmosphere, and it's more like a college atmosphere when you get to Kansas City. I was great to see them get back and go and get that one, and it's been 50 years, but I would be more excited this year because Kansas City got that one monkey off their back to see the Saints get another one before Drew Brees gets out of there.
Arrowhead's a great place. Been there, covered Saints games there, and have been there since, too, and been to baseball games at Kauffman Stadium, and, of course, most recently in the last 2 or 3 years a couple of times, and so had a chance to remind myself about Arrowhead. They built that place very well because it has stood the test of time. Arrowhead and the Superdome are 2 of the older facilities in the NFL, but both of them still have great life because they're good facilities.
Beautiful facilities, and I don't see either team. They just did a huge renovation at Arrowhead, so they're not going anywhere anytime soon. And I don't see the same thing happening with the Superdome. The location and the way anybody that comes in town, home or away, can walk there, and the location it is. I mean, it's a great spot. So I don't see how any one of those teams will move any time in the near future.
The great Willie Roaf with us, 260-1061 to join us. You watch offensive line play maybe more than most because that's your trade. Where New Orleans is concerned, when healthy, it's been my opinion that the Saints have the best tackle tandem in the NFL with Ryan Ramczyk and Teron Armstead. I don't think there's any better tandem in the league. You watch tackle play very closely. Do you feel like they're in that particular category as well?
Yes, I do think they're the best tandem. I think they had a real good tandem in Dallas with Tyron Smith and the other young man before. But right now, I would say when healthy, those two guys are the best tandem in the league, and they both play at a high level. And because of everything going on with the COVID and everything, with the situation with players and practicing together and everything, and everybody's going through the same situation, the Saints have a huge advantage on a lot of other teams, and the pickup of Emmanuel Sanders is going to be big for them. But they have a huge advantage because those guys have been playing together for a while, so they're going to be tough to deal with. And this year, Ken, you only get a bye week. Only the top two seeds get a bye week, and the rest are wild cards. So if the Saints can get off to a fast start and get after these teams, and the defense stepped up big too, and having Malcolm Jenkins back is huge too. So those vets, I think. They're going to be in a very good situation if they get off to a fast start this year.
Staying with the offensive line theme, of course, the other story for the Saints in 2020 is they drafted a center in the first round, Cesar Ruiz out of Michigan. And they already had a first-year center last year, Eric McCoy, who's a very good player with a promising future. The good news is both of these guys are flexible and can play center or guard. A lot of people have speculated that, well, maybe McCoy, who's definitely more of a center than a guard, might have to play guard this year because of no offseason, no training camp, basically, no preseason for sure. But Sean Payton said the other day they're going to rotate. It's open. It's clear that they want to play Ruiz at center and move McCoy to guard. So the question for you is, how difficult of a transition is it to make the switch from one position to the other, in particular at the NFL level?
It's especially at the center position. You're the quarterback of the line. You have to be able to get to everybody in the right position. You got to know where to slide. When that defense moves over after the ball snap or right before the ball snap, you got to adjust right there on the fly with the other guys. So that other than quarterback, I would say that center position is the hardest position on the field on the offensive side of the ball because he's the kind of the coordinator of everybody up front. So I guess that both will be playing and figuring it out. And then if the year goes on, maybe they switch him. If he learns everything, maybe they switch the other kid to guard. But I think what he's saying is I'm going to have them both playing both spots and see how they do. And then as he learns, if he can learn that position and learn the calls and the system, then we'll be more comfortable with him playing it later in the year.
When you watch football and you see Breeze perform the way he performs, the accuracy and being the most accurate quarterback in league history, most touchdown passes, everything else, and yet the guy he might be 6 feet. He's not only not tall, but he's not big, and he doesn't have a big arm. What do you see from him that makes him as good as he is and has made him as good as he is for so long now?
I think Drew, his competitive nature, first of all, you have to have some blessing to play as long as he have at that level. But I think the competitive nature he has that's number one for anybody to play at that level for this longer period of time. I think he takes very good care of himself on and off the field during the season and the off season, so you don't have to worry about that part of it because he's taking care of himself. He's been a family man his whole career, and he's taking care of his body. So I think those are the two important things. And he's just a talented guy. He understands football. He understands coverages, and Drew is one of those guys that's real smart. He's at a point now, Ken, when he walks up to the line, he can look at how the safeties are playing and the coverages is going, and he knows where it's going pretty much before the ball snaps. So, I mean, he's real smart. He gets rid of it, and like I said, anybody that's smart and gets rid of the ball and takes care of himself the way Drew has, he just was one of those guys that was blessed to have that type of ability and was able to play this long.
And then, of course, your other team, the Chiefs. To me, Patrick Mahomes is the most talented player in the league. I think he's the best player in the NFL. I saw the top 100 come out, and I saw Lamar Jackson was picked ahead of him at number one, and all due respect to Jackson, he's a special athlete, but he's basically done it for a year, year and a half. Mahomes has won a Super Bowl, and he's done it a little bit longer too. He's unbelievable with his athletic ability, incredible with his accuracy and his arm, and of course his positive nature and leadership capabilities. To me, he's the best player in the league. Your thoughts?
I would agree with that. I don't see how you have him ranked at 4. I mean, nothing against Aaron Donald. He's a D tackle, and I forgot who they had at 3, Russell Wilson. But if you
Yeah.
ask out of all the GMs, Ken, if you ask them who they want to start a franchise with, I don't think anybody would say it would be anybody other than Patrick Mahomes for the way he throws the ball, how he can improvise on the run. And you got to understand, Lamar Jackson is a taller, thinner guy. Mahomes is a big. He has a big back. He's a bigger. He's broad shouldered, Ken. He's bigger around the chest area than he looks, and his legs are bigger. So he's sturdy, and he you see how he tricks you. He's deceiving when he runs around. But I've seen that kid get hit and jump up and be like, hit me some more. He's a big kid. He's smart. He's strong, and he's got a rifle for an arm. So I don't see how you would start it in the franchise. Seattle may be a little biased toward Russell Wilson because he won the Super Bowl, but other than that, I mean, Patrick Mahomes is a special talent.
Oh, I love Russell Wilson. He's a terrific player and he's a great guy, but there's no way he's more talented than Mahomes, in my estimation. So I would definitely disagree with that one. But beauty's in the eye of the beholder. No preseason games, Willie. I know that has been a point of contention with fans for a long time. But as a player, how important, in your estimation, is the preseason? And if there is a preseason, how long should it be?
It's important to get out there and play a little bit. You need to get out there and play some games because you're going to scrimmage and practice and do all that, but it's still not a game type feeling. You have to get out and play the game. I don't think you need more than 2 preseason games, 3 at the most, because usually, Ken, you know how it works. The first 2 you play a half, whatever. That third preseason game you play 3 quarters, 3.5 quarters. So if you go 2 games, you go and you play more in the first game, and you play or whatever, vice versa. You play 3 quarters in the second game to get your feet wet. After that, you start the season because it takes a little bit to get in shape during the season anyway. But the problem with not having a preseason game for teams that haven't been together, those first few weeks are going to be kind of like a preseason because they haven't been playing together. A lot of them have a lot of new personnel. So I said that's why I said the Saints are in a great situation. Get out there and jump on some teams because they've been playing together for a while. All those guys know the system other than the center position. So that's the advantage they have. They've been together. They know what they're doing. Same thing with the Chiefs. They've been together for a while. They know what they're doing, and speed kills in this league. So, like you said, those teams get off to a fast start. It's going to be tough to deal with them.
Of course, the players' union and the owners looks like it's going to change next year with going to 17 regular season games and 3 preseason games. So there will be 1 fewer starting next year. The issue is adding a regular season game. There'll be another week off under that framework in the season, which I think is essential for players because how difficult is it to navigate a 16-game season physically, much less a 17-game season?
It's tough, especially for guys that have been in the league a while. I mean, it's hard enough to stay physically, with your body to make it through 16 games. So when you throw another one in the mix, it's going to be tougher. But with the shortened training camp and the shortened preseason, that will help you because we used to do a lot more banging at training camp. So by the time we got ready for the preseason, we were excited because you were trying to get your legs back. Now, it helped you deal with injuries more because you had been doing a lot more practicing. But still, I think if they cut out training camp and they're not doing as much hitting in camp, which they don't anymore anyway, that'll make it somewhat easier. And cutting out that last preseason game, I think in the future, Ken, you're going to see none of the guys are going to play in the last preseason game anyway. So really, they'll play in the first 2 preseason games, and then they'll be out the third one, and then those guys will be trying to make the roster. So a lot of those veteran players will not be playing as much in the preseason in the future anyway.
And then, of course, there's the expansion of the playoffs to 7 teams with only one team getting a bye in each conference. So not only would you play the extra regular season game, but if you make the playoffs, now you're going to add another game for a team if you're going to make it and play in that first round, considering the fact that only one team gets a bye in each conference now.
But I like that. I think that makes it more competitive. I think the team with the best record in the league is that's great for them, and you only have one team. So I don't have a problem with that. And you get another team that gets a chance to get in the playoffs. So I like that part, Ken, because I remember my last year we played. We were 10-6, and we had two good teams in our division ahead of us, and I think it was the Denver and San Diego, and we were 10-6 and didn't make the playoffs. So, I mean, I think it's good when you throw. It's hard enough to have good teams and good seasons and play in NFL. So those teams that are on the bubble and you get to throw another team in there, I root for that because it's a hard way to go all year. And if you have a decent the team is pretty good and you don't have a chance to get in the playoffs, that always hurts at the end of the year because it's hard enough to make it through the season, let alone get to enjoy getting a chance to play in the playoffs.
Great, Willie Roaf with us for a couple more minutes. As you look at this season ahead, and there's going to be a season, I believe, it's just going to be a matter of what it looks like and when it is. Obviously, everything is static right now with this virus and what's transpiring. But we talked about the Saints and the Chiefs certainly being amongst those teams that are clear contenders. In the NFC, you certainly have San Francisco, who was that good last year and was a half quarter away from winning it all. And you also have Seattle, who's good, clearly. I think Tampa Bay obviously has to be taken seriously now. That's a very good team. You can't ignore Green Bay. And Dallas is an improved football team and a good football team. And I'm just naming some in the NFC. And then, of course, over in the AFC, along with the Chiefs, Baltimore has obviously got to be a big part of that conversation. I think. I'm not sure what other team you might elevate to that level. Tennessee, of course, finished up really strongly last year. They ran the ball. They were physical. So I think you have to pay pretty close attention to the Titans as well. What about you? Who do you see as teams that clearly would have a shot to get to the Super Bowl this year?
I agree with you. Baltimore picked up some real good players, some good veteran players on the D line and offensively, and they might pick up Antonio Brown. So Baltimore's going to be tough for anybody to deal with, especially if Lamar can stand in that pocket more and throw the ball and doesn't depend on his legs as much and picks his spots. But I agree with you. Tampa, I think they're going to be good. It's going to take a little time to gel with those guys. I mean, the defense is probably going to have to carry them a little bit, and we'll see what happens as far as them designing something where Tom Brady can get rid of the ball. Because he's going to have to get rid of the ball. He can't hold the ball, or they're going to try to come after him. And, Minnesota was tough. I think Minnesota's going to be right there. They're a good football team. I know they let the receiver go, and I don't know if the Texans will be as good. I think they're in the AFC, but like you said, I think Baltimore worries me. They're very talented, but I think the Saints are in the driver's seat. The Cowboys I think are going to be good. But you got a new coach, you got a new system going in, so it's always a little different when you put in a new system. We had McCarthy in 2000, and he's a very good coach, but you got to put a new system in. So it's going to be, the teams that are going to have a chance to really do well are going to be the teams that have been running the same system and have been together for a few years.
When you talk about Lamar Jackson, the guy that comes to mind for me is a guy you competed against, Michael Vick. I think he's a very similar guy. One was left-handed, one was right-handed. When Vick was on, when he was accurate, he was incredible. When he was healthy, he was a tremendous player. And Jackson is the same kind of guy. When he's accurate, he's off the charts because of his athletic ability and his big arm. Is that a valid comparison? Do you see similarities between the two?
Very valid comparison. I just when Lamar, I think Vic was great running out of space. I think the little difference is Lamar. He can shift gears so fast on you, and when he gets out in an open field, and he can go from 0 to 60 so fast. I think that's the difference. I mean, Lamar is a special talent because of how fast he can shift gears on you, and when he gets going, I mean, it's hard to keep up with the guy. I think Lamar's a little faster than Michael was as a player. I think he's faster when he gets out in open field, but it's a real close comparison, and but Lamar's a little undersized, and Michael was undersized too, doing all that running around, and that's what worries me about Lamar is running so much. I would like to see him, learn the coverages and throw the ball more, and we'll see how he keeps developing. But like I said, he's been in that system for a couple of years now, and he should be getting better. But that's a real good comparison. But I think Lamar has a chance to be better than Vic was if he stays focused.
And then with Antonio Brown, the news coming out today that he received an 8-game suspension without pay for multiple violations of the NFL's personal conduct policy. Brown will not fight the suspension. His agent said he's not appealing, so he'll serve the 8-game suspension. So if anybody does sign him, they're going to have to be without him for half a season. The Saints flirted with him last year. Seattle's flirted with him this year. And, of course, the Ravens, and a lot of talk about them this year. The guy is a special player, but he played in one game for New England last year. So whoever gets him, he will not have played for almost 2 seasons, and you wonder just how effective, how good he will be. Of course, some people are asking the same questions about Gronkowski coming back now as well. What about it? Can guys like that in their 30s come back and be as productive?
I think it's going to be an easier transition for Antonio Brown because he stays in such good shape all the time, and the guy, he's a special talent, and I think it'll be an easier transition. Gronkowski's a little older, body's been banged up more. He's had multiple surgeries, so Gronk is going to be another case. Gronk will probably play a little lighter this year than he was, and maybe his body will be a little fresher from that year off, or he might not be as durable after a year off. We'll have to see. But I think it's going to be tougher for Gronk than it will be for Antonio Brown. He hasn't had a lot of injuries. He's got something to prove. And I think Antonio's going to be wrecking havoc like he was before once he gets back on the field. I'm a little biased, too. I played with his dad, Eddie Brown, at Louisiana Tech. We got him from Fort Scott Junior College, and he was a real good player for us there. He tried out for the pros, too. So I'm a little biased toward Antonio, but I still think he's going to come back playing well.
The electric player, and I think in retrospect, he regrets what happened in Pittsburgh because he had a good situation with an outstanding quarterback, with an outstanding running back, with an outstanding coach, and an outstanding organization. And I think he's pretty much said it since he kind of regrets the way he conducted himself there and the way it came apart as a result because he was in a really good situation with the Steelers.
What'd you say, Ken?
I said he was in a really good situation with the Steelers in Antonio Brown. So, I think he regrets what happened now. He probably wishes he was back there.
Yeah, he does. I mean, he was in a great situation. They loved him. They took care of him up there. He's playing on grass. I mean, the fans loved him. So I know he regrets it. And then he probably regrets what he did when he got to Oakland. I mean, they wanted him up there, and the coach was bending over backwards for him, John Gruden. So I know he regrets it. But, you have to live and learn, and hopefully he's learned some things and matured, and hopefully, like you said, he got his personal life in order, and we can move past all that.
Sure. And then one or two more quick questions. We'll let Willie get away. The Patriots, everybody is curious to see what they are without Brady. And, I mean, you have it from both ends. Some people are, well, it was all about Brady. Others are like, well, it's all about Belichick. My opinion is it's all about both of them. They were great together, the best combination ever. They clearly can't be the same apart as they were together. And yet it's going to be intriguing to see how each one does apart from each other. Brady's got a really good cast in Tampa Bay, and Belichick has a chance to prove just how good he is, perhaps the best coach ever, without Brady by continuing to win. And with that, you now have the intrigue of a former league MVP and Cam Newton being there. The question is, can Newton be the kind of player that we saw previously, or is he more the player we saw the last couple of years, beat up and troubled and just not back to where he was because of the injuries?
And I got another question when it comes to Cam, Ken. Just like what happened with Chad Johnson. How much can Cam was Cam at running that style offense he ran at Auburn? And when you get to that system that they like to run, it's about getting rid of the ball, timing, accuracy, reading the defense. Can Cam read the defense? And this offense is going to be a lot more difficult to run than what he ran in Carolina. So I want to see how Cam can adjust to being able to run a different style, total different style offense where he doesn't depend on his legs as much because they're not going to want him to. And if he can't uh, uh, do that for that system, are they just going to use Cam on certain packages? Is he going to be used full time? I don't know what the plan is. I think it's going to be a situation where they'll see how smart he is and what he can learn and how fast he learns. So I would think if I'm Cam, I know he was in L.A. throwing the ball around. I would be more like Tom, be up there around them getting the playbook out there with some of the receivers from the team trying to learn the system. Because I'm telling you, what he did in Carolina was more geared for him, and it was more read option and all that stuff. When he gets to what New England wants to do, unless they change the way their philosophy is, they run a totally different system with Josh McDaniels. So I'm interested to see when he starts playing how well he adjusts to a system like that, because it's going to be a lot more difficult than what he was running in Carolina.
Well, it's certainly going to be interesting to see how the two fare apart from each other, considering how productive they were together. Really intriguing. Great season coming up. We just hope it happens, and it happens on time without complications. We've seen a few complications in Major League Baseball. The NBA bubble seems to be working quite well. Same thing with Major League Soccer with the bubble of sorts. So, again, it's such strange times we find ourselves in that I don't know that anybody knows what it's going to be, but it's a challenge for everybody. Sean Payton is irritated, but so is everybody else. Everybody's got the same issues to deal with, and again, it's going to be intriguing to see who handles it best. I think who handles it best might end up being most successful. Now, you got to be good in the first place, but the team that ends up surviving is going to be a team that adjusted to it best and, of course, gets lucky with injuries as well. You can follow him on Twitter. It's at Willie_Roaf. That's at Willie_Roaf. Make sure you do. It's certainly a pleasure to visit with my friend, a great guy, one of the best players we've ever seen, and one of the best people too. Really appreciate you, Willie, and blessings to Angela and the new addition that's coming to your family very soon. And really appreciate you guys, and God bless you. You hear?
Yeah, thank you for having me. And they can follow me on Instagram too, at Willie_Roaf on Instagram. I want to say, my daughter, we just had dinner with her. She's flying back to New Orleans to get ready to go to LSU, not Louisiana Tech, but I want to wishing her a great freshman year. And my friend Kevin Crawford out there working hard, making sure everybody gets their mail. He just got off work today. My college teammate, Ken, I want to say hi to Kevin because he works hard out in Metairie, making sure everybody gets their mail, and he's doing a great job and taking care of himself. And I just want to say to all the people, God bless you, and everybody stay safe during this time, and things will get back to normal soon enough. We'll get a vaccine, and we just want everybody to stay safe. And we thank you for having me on, Ken. I want to give everybody our blessings too.
You got it, buddy. Thank you, Willie.
Thank you for having me.
All right, that's Willie Roaf, the great Willie Roaf.